Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we switched to the deed tracker plugin. I had some fixes and improvements that I wanted to catch up on, and today we're going to keep working our way through that deed tracker issue list. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, I forgot my lip balm. I had some pizza earlier and it was quite salty. Okay, so we were looking at deed tracker issues. What is deed tracker, you might say? Well, you may be new here, and that's totally fine. Deed tracker is a plugin that we can use to track the deeds that we complete. It includes a little icon that lets you toggle the main window on and off, and the main window where it will display the deeds in hopefully a reasonable form factor. It's meant to emulate the current classic deed log in-game in how it presents all of the deeds. However, the classic in-game deed log, they have plans to revamp it. The first batch did not thrill the community. And so it's the outermost window is still here, but it had some issues, and so I think they shelved it for the short term until they could swing back around and work on it. I haven't heard too much about it. So we're gonna not worry too much about this UI, but there were some things in that I thought could be very interesting. So I hope they take the community feedback to heart and are working on that. So deed tracker will give you a hierarchical sense of deeds. Deeds of Breland requires you to complete Explorer of Breland, which requires the Barrow Downs, the Old Forest, the Ruins, and so on. Cool. So, what are we working on? Well, we have a couple of issues that we're working on that are specifically about this little icon that lets you open and close. The first one is that at least one person has asked for an alternative shape, a square instead of a circle. Okay. The other set of issues that community member DT was asking about was, can we get it so that the opacity is toggleable? So I think specifically what I would do probably is either a checkbox, use opacity, and then a slider between some sensible levels, or just a slider that, what is the opacity when you're not on it, between 0 and 100. You set it to 100, by default, we're not doing opacity. But I think conceptually for some people, pulling those out into two settings, are we using it, and if so, what is the setting, might make more sense. They also thought that, hey, if we right-click the icon, it doesn't do anything, maybe it could. And they also wanted an option for the icon to be smaller so that they could place it among some other icons that they have along the radar. So we made some progress on this last week, and we're going to keep on working on that today.
You're going to keep plugging along?
We're going to keep plugging along. Okay, so I made a change to what we saw last week. Last week, we were looking at a different issue, actually, where if you complete a landscape difficulty deed or a Veil of the Nine deed or one of the other ones, a legendary server deed, deed tracker wasn't actually acknowledging that you'd done it, despite evidence to the contrary. So what we wanted to do is say, even if that setting is off, if you actually complete a deed, definitionally that setting should have been turned on, so we'll turn it on for you. Last time I made a mistake and wasn't actually checking which one of those three was set on the deed, and so we were just turning all three settings on. So let's take a look at that fix that I made, and then we'll move on. So it is here, and we are going to go ahead and I'm going to move a window that you all can't see. That is bothering me. There we go. Okay, so what I needed was, what is the entry in the deed that tells me that we are doing the thing? So legendary server, when we're looking for that, the key on the deed data is called legendary, and if it is true, then that's our indication. Veil of the Nine, true. NA for not applicable. For historical reasons, there's different ways of describing that something is not available, and that was value number 6. So what we want to do is say, if the deed's entry, the first entry, is equal to that expected value, then the deed is of the type. So if the deed is this type and the setting is off, then go ahead and do the thing. So that's just what we're trying to do. Is also I missed a semicolon. Let's go fix that. Boop. Cool. So how do we know it's relevant? It's relevant and the setting is off. Then go ahead and force it to be set to on. Cool. So I should just go ahead and test that we have correctly done that. So let's go look at the landscape difficulty deeds. If we come into class race epic and we say of song, there's a couple things, but adept of song, apprentice of song, those are what we're looking at. So I say that I've completed apprentice of song using the debug tool. Cool, we detected it. Now if I turn off, let's make this a little taller. If I turn off the landscape difficulty deeds, those disappear. But if I say apprentice of song, let's turn on verbose logging. Turn off landscape difficulty, we can see the others are off. And go ahead and complete that. We can see forcing difficulty setting to true because of this completed deed. Awesome. And now all of those are being visible. So if we go ahead and replace that with master of song, we'll see that those two also got completed. Neat. And we can see Veil of the Night and Legendary Server did not get toggled on as a result of this. Awesome. Part of my problem with that testing was I'm pretty sure that I had all three of them checked on, and I was only deselecting one at a time. So I didn't notice that this logic was coming into play because it didn't need to force them on, so it didn't display the message that it was forcing them on. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get that committed into our source control. So, only toggle the specific category of deed that was completed. So that is all of that change. We'll commit that in. And then the minimized icon, and this is what we were working on before. So we have a couple of things now. Let's go ahead and close some of I guess a lot of this is still applicable. Okay, so the minimized icon for the background, we are looking at the settings for the minimized icon. We're looking for the icon setting. Now that should be there because we know we've added in the globals, we've added in the icon and this setting here. We're sort of protecting ourselves in that if we can't find this long entry in icons, then that saved setting. If we can't find that, then we'll default to something. But if any of these structures aren't there, that will cause an exception. So I think that's fine. What we're protecting ourselves against is, can we find that entry in icons? What that should look like is deed log icon circle large. Great. So if we ever change keys or whatever, we have a fallback where we will find an icon, which is good because without an icon, you can't see this thing to interact with it. Cool. What we don't have is something in the options menu to let people choose which icon that they're doing. Now the icons that we added last time should allow for a lot of what we were just talking about. We have a small, medium, and full-sized. Technically we have a super large one. I don't think that's a useful one to have. We also have the rectangle versions of small and I called them rectangle, but they really are square. So let's go ahead and call out that they are square. They look like rectangles, but we've added a black margin so that it is a square in the file. So we're going to call those square, and in the images, rectangle. I even called them square in the internal key. Funny. So we'll just go ahead and say anything that is that, replace with that. Cool. So far, all good. Let's come in and save some of those changes. So, renamed image files. We'll go ahead and commit that. And then what else do we have? We have, oh, should have included that. And then we're still working in this stuff here, so we don't need to commit anything more. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. We want to go ahead and, I closed that, but we want to be able to present these to a user. And so, do we care about calling it out by name or just showing what it is? Oh, maybe. Okay, description. So this is going to be a table that's going to have some strings in it. So it's going to look like this. So en equals large circle. And then we can fill in other ones as well. Delicious says, call it out. Fair enough. So we're just going to go ahead and have a description for all of these. This is medium circle, small circle. This is large square and small square. Actually, it's according to the other sizes, it is a medium square. Cool. So now we can iterate through this. We can't iterate through this correctly because we will get the wrong order, but we can fake it. Okay, so we want to go through our options. Let's pull that over. Minimized icon, nope, strings, options, there we go. So we can come in here and say icon or ordered icons equals, and here we can just go ahead and say the first entry equals whatever. Now we can do it like this, but we can change this later. So having numerical indices like this that start at 1 and increase with no gaps will let us iterate through this in a consistent ordered manner that we choose instead of an internal random seeming order. So we're going to go ahead and list things like this. And then we can iterate through this table in order to iterate through this table in order to present things in the UI. Yeah. Now, whether or not we actually hard code things or not, this is what we can do to not have to hard code things. Given that there's only 5 icons right now, maybe we just like boop, 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 order everything. But an easier thing to do would be in this ordered icons, go ahead and have a little bit more information. So instead of 1 here, it might look more like this, equals, so key equals this, but then x equals something, and then y, whoops, equals something, and then, yeah. Dilshire says, whoa, it sounds like a lot of fiddling. Never thought about all the crazy amount of work that it goes into creating a plugin. Yeah, it's one of the things that we have a lot of flexibility over how we present information to a user, but there's no built-in system for presenting options to a user in order for them to toggle things on and off. So if we want to support different icons for that little button, different opacity levels, whatever, we have to program that in, and we have to think about how we're going to do that. Now, what I'm doing right now is overkill. To be sure, I could just iterate through this table, and the order is what it is. But I'm not a fan of that. I like consistent user layouts. And so the other option was, these are indexed, these are created in such a way that the ordering is not consistent. I could have done something else. I could have had it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then, and maybe that's actually the right way to do it, is build it into here. So what that would look like is 1 equals, and then it would look like this. But the problem with that is we're not saving based off of that ID, or at least we're not currently doing that. What we were putting into the save file was this lookup value. And that means we either have to iterate through each entry in that table, or we have to not do that. And I'm not a big fan of iterating through tables if you can just use the thing that you're using as the key to that table. But there are pros and cons to both. So we're going to go ahead and play around with this a little bit. All right, and we may decide this is overkill, this is silly, whatever, but, so this is x1, this is x2, this is x1 and y1, and this is x1 and y2. No, sorry, x2 and y1. So in theory, we have 3 on the top row, 2 on the second row, indented by 1, and let's see what that looks like. So in order to do something about this, we need to be in options control somewhere. And we're going to be doing something a little bit special. So we have at the top here, move icon requires shift. Awesome. We need to be doing something. Y equals add. What are we going to call this? Icon options. Cool. So we know we won't need the parent this is going into. We need the Y. The rest of it is going to be done in there. So let's play around with that. So we're going to make a function, add icon options. It's going to take the parent control. And when we're all done, we'll return how much vertical space that we used, or really where the next one is. So our function documentation should look like this. Adds the options for the user to select for add the possible icons for the mini button. So option is a control, Y is a number, and we're returning a number. So we can get some nice IntelliSense out of this. Cool. So what are we going to do? So first of all, it's probably nice to have a little mini control in which we can work. So local icon control equals turbine.ui.control. And then we're going to go ahead and say icon control set width is going to be option get width. And then icon control set height to, not sure. But whatever that height is, we're going to go ahead and say local height. Are we? Local icon y equals 0. So that's going to get incremented. So we're going to set this to icon y, oops, icon y, and then we're going to return y plus icon y. So our initial height plus how tall we are here. So let's go ahead and just for a test, icon y equals 50. Now we have a control. We need to remember to set its parent value to be options. We want to be able to see this thing. So let's go ahead and say icon control, set back color to be turbine.ui.color.something dark orange. Why not? I doubt it's very dark. So we have set its width, we're setting its height to something, and we've set its parent. We haven't set its location though, so let's go ahead and say icon control set top to be y. Great. So that's probably everything we need, but let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. We're going to load this in. It's not going to load. In fact, line 43 option is nil. That's sad. Let's figure out what we did wrong. We passed option instead of options. No wonder I was typing options. So let's go ahead and fix that. So options. Okay. So we can see now we do have the orange box. Now the orange box is not as wide as it could be. We can see something's changing that width later. So we're setting options set. Where else is this happening? Set width to 300. Fascinating. I don't know why we're getting an inconsistent width then. Oh my, that's... Huh. I don't know. But I think I've stopped worrying about it. Okay, so we have a space that we can do stuff in. So let's go ahead and do that stuff. What we want to do is create we want radio buttons because those represent one and only one thing has been selected, and that's appropriate here. But do we get radio buttons? Let's find out. We have checkbox. Well, I don't know. We may not be getting a radio button, so we're going to instead of doing a display for all of them, we could just have a drop down which is also a custom thing. We could do something like a drop down. Um, hmm. No button group, huh? Am I doing anything else that's a radio button like? No. Do I have any other plugins, or have I used any other plugins that would do such a thing? Maybe Travel Window. Let's see how a couple other plugins solve this problem before we decide which way we're going to go with it. So I have the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. Let's go ahead and say Travel Window 2. Let's add that in. All right, options. Okay, we can see Travel Window 2 just used checkboxes and have presumably hard-coded in the logic that says only one of these can be active at a time. And if that's the way that Travel Window has done it, that's probably a reasonable way to do it. They write pretty good stuff. So, how do they do it? Let's go find out. So, if we go ahead and... What was it? Oh, yeah. New window. And we're going to go ahead and... Let me see if I can find this. Open folder. So this is... plugins, travel window to source. Cool. So if we come into options window, we know what we're looking for, right? It's the mode. So if we search for text list, we should find that as a string. Great. So where's the string used? Mini text. Great. In the options panel and in the settings. Okay, so options then. So we have the ID that we're doing, the string to display, and presumably how wide this is. Let's take a look. So they're iterating through. They're making a checkbox, and they're setting the check changed function, which is unchecking each of the other ones, making sure that we don't recurse in to this function. So we're updating mode radios. So we bail if we're in the middle of that. So if we're checking it, now what happens if we try to uncheck it? Nothing. So we can see that's what's going on here. Prevent the deselection. So we just unchecked it, recheck it, but don't allow any further updating. That seems solid. That seems like a reasonable approach. The only problem is that we have squares instead of circles, but that's okay. So let's take that as inspiration for what we're going to do. Okay, so that was the ID, the label, and the exposition. Now, we are going to do something slightly different, I think, because I'm envisioning that we're going to require 2 lines to do it. But something very similar. I wonder if there's a way I can... Maybe... Nope. Good try Windows. Yeah. So what we're going to do is iterate through this table, or try to. So we want to go ahead and say for the index that I don't care about, and the ordered icon in I pairs of ordered icons do end. Cool. And we're going to do something. So we've got some stuff. We have key, we have x and y. So local key x, y equals ordered icon Yep, just key XY. Great. Now you can also do these on separate lines. I'm kind of emulating the style that they're doing over here. Did I not get it right? Unused and redefined. Ah, yes. Okay. Icon key, icon X, icon Y. There we go. So, yeah, you can just do these on 3 separate lines. Totally fine. So we need a radio button. So local radio button equals, this is going to be a turbine.ui dot, yeah, LOTRO.checkbox. In fact, it'd be probably worth extracting out the idea of a radio button into a class at some point. This is a very useful concept that exists in UI, where you have a thing that acts like a checkbox, except within a group of these, only one of them can be checked. Like that comes up a lot. And to sort of have to reinvent the wheel here instead of just having it available to us, even in the form of a library, that's very sad. In fact, you know what I didn't do? So I didn't go over to LOTRO interface and just search for checkbox. No, sorry, radio button. And let's just double check. Okay, well, that was worth a try. So that's the kind of library that could exist. Now, if you're doing that, you might want to go full bore into it and say, okay, radio buttons are canonically round instead of squares. They have a little dot in them when you're checking them. We could design some visual assets to replicate that look and feel as well, instead of just having a checkbox that behaves like a radio button. But for today, I'm going to just focus on getting the functionality in there, and then we'll see. So we have a checkbox. Remember that we always need to set the parent. So this is going to be to the icon control. Illustrator says, quite impressive. To the uninitiated, all that coding almost sounds like black magic. Well, there's that Arthur C. Clarke quote about any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I do like the corollary of any sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from technology. But I do appreciate that sometimes there's just a domain of language that is very helpful when you're in a thing that seems very opaque if you're not in the thing, be it photography or programming or whatnot, knitting. So we have set a parent, and we're going to start doing some setting positions. And we are taking inspiration from how they've done this as well. So we have the radio button set position. Now, I'm just going to do 00 for right now. We're going to come back to that and refine that. So radio button set size. They said 85 and 20. I'm guessing that's going to be not quite right for us, but that's okay. I'm going to go 120, and we'll see where that is. Radio button set text. And for that, I'm going to use the icon key because I can't be bothered to look it up right now, but it'll put something on the screen. And radio, in fact, if we do have I here, I times 20. Radio button set check alignment. Do I care about the check alignment? Middle left. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay, so we have the essence of getting this out there. Cool. Let's at least see what this looks like. But we're going to want the Y to be updated a little bit. So let's see. Okay, so we can see that width not enough for what we're looking for anyway. So let's just fix that real fast. Okay, not sure that that's going to be enough vertical space, but other problem is that I forgot that the indexes were 1 based. So, hilarious. Cool. So, that's all sorted. But we know, of course, that's not the text that we want to display. So let's go ahead and read that in. We know that we have the icon key. So local icon values equals images dot icons, and that's going to be the icon key. So that will give us the rest of what we need, which is specifically the width and height of the icon and the description. So the text, let's go ahead and say, is icon values description, and that's going to be we're going to call get string on that, so we can get the whatever the current language is, but default back to English. Cool. So we have large circle, medium circle, small circle. That color is driving me nuts. Let's go ahead and darken it up a little bit. Okay. So we have at least the text that we're looking for. We don't have the behavior of the radio buttons, and we don't have the images that we wanted to display. So, do we want to show the preview? I kind of want to show the preview, but it is going to eat up some space. Let's get the rest of it going first, and then we'll sort out. Do we? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so again, using this as inspiration, we do want to save off. We probably want to save some stuff off. The radio button itself, we're going to be able to need to iterate through that. Let's see. Okay, they're saving it as class thing. Icon controls equals this. Let's see. They're just saving off as I suppose that's reasonable. So it's not controls, that's icon, radio buttons. But we know under the covers that's really checkboxes. Okay, so icon radio buttons of I equals radio button. Easy enough. So we've saved that off. Now we just need to have the check change. So radio button, check changed. Funk? What is that? What is this? Checkbox, yeah. Will be enabled after initialization. That's a fascinating way to do it. I don't know if it's necessary, but we can see here what they've done is they've set up all the callback functions in a temporary member of this control, and then when they are ready, they go ahead and rewrite the actual check change function to be that other thing, and then clear out that other variable. So it's temporarily around. So it's set up, but it's not actually enabled. Fascinating. I don't know if I've seen that before in a LOTRO plugin, and I don't know what problem they're trying to solve with it. So I'm going to write without it to see if I can uncover what the problem is, and then I'll know what the solution is. So we have a check change func. So that's going to be a new anonymous function taking sender and args. And we want to do some things. So don't allow recursion. So if, and then, so we need a variable that can be updated. So local handling checked changed equals false. So if handling check change, then return end. And therefore, if not, we're going to go ahead and set that to true. Oh, they're doing all sorts of interesting things. We're going to try to be a little bit simpler. So we're setting it, we're checking for true. If it is, we return. Now we know that it's false, we set it to true. And then when we get down here, we'll set it back to false when we're done doing whatever it is we're doing. So if radio button is checked, then simulate a radio button, uncheck the rest. Else, simulate a radio button, don't uncheck. Now, you could do this differently. Instead of not allowing it to uncheck, you could just have a default selection. So if we undo a customized selection, it snaps back to that default selection. But I think that's less intuitive if you go to uncheck something and it does uncheck, but something else rechecks. And then if you go to uncheck that, nothing happens. I don't feel like that would be an intuitive user experience. So we're not going to do that. But it is something that you could do. Like the logic of the plugin allows you to do that. So we're going to go ahead and say radio button set checked to true. And otherwise, for sure, other radio button in iPairs of whatever we called that, icon radio buttons do, and other radio button, and we need to double check that we're not doing this for ourselves, but if radio button does not equal other radio button, then other radio button set checked to false. That's it. Let's give that a shot. So we're going to go ahead and unload. We're going to reload. So if we check the large circle, that's fine. We can no longer uncheck it. And we can see it's not working. So that's okay. What have we done wrong? Let's go ahead and give some debug output. Turbine.shell.writeLine. In fact, we have a debug statement. Debug. Setting radio button number other I to unchecked. Let's see if we're even in that loop. So medium, setting 1, 2, 3 to unchecked, setting 1, 2, 3 to unchecked. We think we're doing that. So I put that in the wrong space. We don't actually know if we're in there. So checking radio button number whatever. Let's see if we're even getting into that inner space. Okay, so. Okay. Checking 1, setting 1 to unchecked. Checking 2, that's the one we just checked. 3, 4, 5 to unchecked. So we can see a couple things that my mind's getting thrown off by the lack of an indent over there on the left there. Let's just fix that real fast. Cool. So what am I getting wrong there? Well, we have an example. We have set checked. I'm not sure why calling the set checked is not working out the way I'd hoped. But the setting checked is. Alright, let's just see what happens if we set check to true. That worked. Alright, we're not using sender the way we could be. So let's double check that. What if we set them all to false? So, other radio button set checked false. Great. And then what if we said sender set checked true. Maybe we forgot to call the parent function in this. Radio dot. Okay, just out of curiosity, if we don't have that in there whatsoever, okay, that's all fine. And if we say return right there, okay. So if we say, instead of that return, if we say local next equals I plus 1 math.mod so I plus 1 of 5 plus 1. we play with the checked status in other ways? Did I break something in LOTRO? Always possible. It doesn't want to take the focus. Okay. Oh, well. I'm probably in an infinite loop because I didn't put back the block on that. Oh, well. Well, next time LOTRO wakes up, we'll go ahead and start a new client. Infinite loops in your plugins can, in fact, stall out the client. Doesn't do any harm to speak of, but inconvenient. Because I was using modular arithmetic, I'm almost certain that it was just going around in a loop after I did that first click, just doing a reentrancy, which is what that code was meant to stop, was reentrancy or recursion. Okay, so let's play around with well, you know that I have it. Local next. All right, let's hop in with Affidel. So what we want to see is just wacky hijinks. What can we do to show these boxes being checked or not checked? Because we're able to see them all get checked off of a single thing. One thing we could try is pre-checking all the boxes and then doing the opposite. Can we uncheck them programmatically? Because we should be able to do that. Okay. Okay, so we can disable the checking aspect of it. Cool. We can check everything but this. So we can say sender check. New checkbox set checked true. Let's see if that comes in. Is not. am I doing wrong? I want to get a little bit more insight. So that's handling check change for radio button 2, 1, 3, 4, 5. How are we in there? That's being set at the wrong level. There we go. Okay, so now we have something where if we click it, all the rest get checked. Awesome. So we should be able to actually do what we were doing, which was this. Okay. Now we have it. So, what did we learn from that? A little debugging output goes a long way. So what we learned was that the flag for recursions wasn't being set at the right level, so that each time through this loop it was getting spun off. So every button had its own flag instead of looking at the shared flag. So the scope of that was wrong. That is my interpretation of that anyway. So we're going to go ahead and move on. So we have stopped the checkbox, well, the radio button from being unchecked. What we don't have is a default value. And so what we want is to get that settings value, and we can just get that from here. So settings, minimized, icon. So so we need a thing. So icon key to use, and not the actual icon, just the key. So if there's that icon there, or that. So we know we have one, and so we're making one. So if icon key equals icon key to use, then radio button set checked true. Let's give that a shot. Okay, we can see large circle. Now, how do we know that it's correct? Well, I just do. No, but we're going to go check the save file. So we're going into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online. This is going to be in plugin data. It's me, Peregrine. It should be Affodil, and this is dtracker settings. Oh, different window. There we go. So we're going to look for the icon. Minimized icon. So we can see dlog icon circle large. So what if we put small? Make sure the plugin is unloaded, and then small, and then load the plugin back in. Okay, we can see small circle is the one selected. So we don't have the way to save off this checkbox change yet, but it is respecting what is currently in the save file. Cool. So we could be done now, actually, if we went ahead and gave our callbacks the ability to update that settings and also tell the window to update itself. And also, where is the window? button. Well, that's funny. Oh, it's small. It's going to be tiny. Ah, there it is. Ha ha ha. Yeah. That's specifically for someone who wanted to be able to place it on the radar rim like this. So, cool. Yeah. All right. Medium, large. Well, now I'm second guessing whether we even want to preview them, given how immediate the reaction is to the button itself. But I do want to get that callback done before we're done on the stream today. So let's go ahead and work on updating the settings. So we need to update this setting whenever we are checked. So if we are checked, oh, we don't need that. Yeah, so we can see that travel window is a little bit more complicated, but for us, if we just update that setting to the selected key equals, and this is going to be icon key, and then if we minimize icon has a way to update the icon details, so function load icon settings. Then what do we need from that? We need we have an XY, the width and the height, get the icon details. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull out the making of that icon, and we can go ahead and say self.image equals image. And then we can say load icon settings. Okay, so then we just need to update this. Self.image. So does that give us the same stuff, the same basic reaction? I should really save off a different default icon size. What is icon circle large? What's going on now? I killed that check, didn't I? Right, let's try that. Okay, so we're going to do a large circle. Now the XY is getting wonked out, Where is that being set? Self. Set position XY. Okay, XY is not valid anymore. Let's move that to where we're actually using them. Great. But we're not calling the load icon settings here, and we want to be. So the minimized icon, let's see what main win calls that. Self.minimize icon. Great. Doesn't really feel like that should be a part of minimize icon. Oh, sorry, it doesn't feel like it should be part of the main window. I was really thinking it would be in main. But it is at the moment. So, does main have an access to the main window? Okay. Atarker win get instance. Great. And then the main, we're going main window. We're going to grab the minimized icon. Oh, man, that is so weird. Let's make a new issue for this. Minimized icon is a child is created by the main window, but shouldn't be. We'll just call it that. Okay, that's a problem for later. So, we should be able to dot minimized icon, and then there we should be able to call load icon settings. Okay, should not need to do that, but let's give that a try. Large, medium, small, medium, square, small, square. That's really cool. Okay, the only thing I would say is that I think, until says it is. The other thing is I think we can do some columnization here. So what we're going to do is come take a look at this. And so large, medium, and small, I think I'm going to redo those to be 0, 1, and 2. Not try to make those in a row. I don't think there's enough horizontal space there. But medium, we're going to go x1, y0, and x1, y1. And now we want to actually pay attention to these values in placing these checkboxes. Before we just sort of hard-coded how they're being without respecting that. So what we want is we have the icon X and the icon Y. So the icon X, we have the set position. So we want 10 plus icon X times, let's say, we're 250 wide, so 125. And then for the Y, we want icon Y times 20. Yeah, let's give that a try. Cool. So we've relayed that out, and now that we have done that, the whole height of this thing doesn't need to be quite so tall. So Y equals, where did we do that? Icon Y. that's funny. I don't want that. I don't want that. There, I want a local max y, max icon y equals, and then we can say if icon y is greater than max icon y, then max icon y equals icon y, and then we can just set that. So we can go ahead and say not icon y, we don't even need that. So we can say local control height equals max icon y times 20. We're going to come back in and clean that up. But the 20, let's go ahead and fix a couple of these magic numbers. So local radio button height equals 20. So each of these places where we can see 20, we're going to go ahead and fix that. And then the icon width, radio button width, we're going to say is 250. We don't actually need that. 125 was fine. So we're going to go ahead and say radio button width there. Set the size right at 125. Great. And then the 10, that's just the left margin. So local left margin equals 10. So now we can see that the left margin plus the icon X times the width, icon Y times radio button. Let's give that a shot. Okay, so that didn't work. Why not? We can see, because I'm doing 0-based things here, and Lua really loves 1-based things. So, max plus 1. Okay, great. So we were doing 0, 1, and 2. Lua would very much like that to be 1, 2, and 3. But we can see how fluent it is to say we're doing an offset times that I, and if it's 0-based, then it's fine. Otherwise, you have to do an offset of I minus 1, so it's got to be in there somewhere. Cool. So we have large circle, medium circle, small, medium square, small square. Okay. Neat, neat, neat. Now, it might be nice to have sort of a header for this section, like icon shape / size. So let's add one of those in there as well. So local control label equals a turbine.ui.label, and we've got to remember to set the parent. So control label set parent to options. We're going to go ahead and say control label set text, and we want to remember to make this localizable. So options, what on earth is save? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe it was in there for something else. Options. Icon size shape equals. Cool. This is going to be English equals icon shape size. And we'll say mini icon shape size. I'm not going to bother with the rest right now, but we can fill that in as time goes by. So we're in lang options icon shape size. Let's go ahead and grab that. So we're going to get string, and that's going to be lang options icon shape size. So we do want to make room for this. So first of all, we need to make the right size. So set size. Let's do 125 and 20 again. Control label set position. That's going to be Well, actually, we just made the right control, icon control for that. And set position 5, 0. Let's see what that looks like. We haven't. Solicitor says, I like that the multi-language support options you put in there. Yeah, it's not a full coverage of everything, but DTracker itself supports different languages much more fluently. So if the language, let's see, how am I doing get language? Yeah, okay. So language, if I say language is actually German and reload, nope. Hang on a sec. There we go. So if I say the language is actually German, then we can see that all of the deeds in here are supported in the German as well, and we can do the same for French. So if we come on in here for French, go ahead and load that up. We can see that's all good too. The real question is, why is more than one place calling get client language? Oh boy, it's not great. It's fine. It's not great. Okay, but I'm going to put that back to English. Cool. Score in chat says, does a drop-down UI make more sense? It does. There's no native drop-down component, but as we can see, we have a drop-down for character selection. If you want to look at the deed completion of a different one of your characters, you can do that using this drop-down. My two problems with that were, one, that one Dropbox is like the one thing that broke when the recent UI changes were attempted to be rolled out to plugins. It did not behave well. It's not my component. I inherited it from someone else. So the way that it works was incompatible with the way the UI stretching and the UI scaling was implemented. Now, they rolled that back for plugins. It's still a work in progress, but I'm a little hesitant to add more drop-downs until I know how that's going to play out. But also, I had the initial idea that there was going to be a little bit of a preview. Yeah, we can see that that is not big enough. That there was going to be a little bit of preview of what this was going to look like. And if that was true, then I didn't have a way to do a preview cleanly in that drop-down. They're all going to be the same height. Now, I think I may be walking that back, but switching to drop-down kind of eliminates it as a possibility in the future. It's just textual. And yeah, I feel like this might be a simpler to maintain. We'll see. It may be worse, and certainly if we get more options in this, a drop-down starts making a lot of sense as a space saver, if nothing else. But that's why my first thought was like, maybe a drop-down is kind of annoying because it's not built into the UI, into the Lua system. You have to use basically what I would call a third-party library to handle being a drop-down, and they work fine, but it's just one more thing to worry about. In the short term. So that's why I steered away from it for right now. Let's go ahead and make a local label height equals 20. And we'll use that. And we'll go ahead and say the Y is label height plus that. All right. So now that they shouldn't be stomping on each other anymore, of course, label height plus that. Okay, so mini icon shape / size. Now, does it work? If we unload and reload, we can see it's a small square. Let's get that medium square. Great. I always talk about lining up the mediums and the smalls and whatnot, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and do 1 and 2 here. Awesome. Medium circle, unload, reload. Small circle, unload, reload. And large circle, unload, reload. Great. So we're almost all the way done with the changes that we wanted to do. Last one, and I think we might have some time for it. Unfortunately, I am a little tired from the weekend, so I feel my energy starting to lag. So instead of starting on the opacity system, I may start to just review the changes we've done so far and get those committed in. And depending on how much time left, we'll poke at the opacity system a little bit, or we may just save that to next time. So with that in mind, if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, in case this comes to an end a little bit sooner, now's a great time to get them into chat. And I'm going to go ahead and first remove that orange background. I think it's been there long enough. Orange. Oh, it's not orange anymore, is it? Okay. Oh, and cool. So let's go ahead and kill that background color. Okay, great. And let's go ahead and kill our plugin data settings. To see what happens if we have a brand new plugin file that doesn't have that value. Okay, that looked great. And now let's see what happens if we have an old file that for some reason doesn't have the icon value. So let's go ahead and kill that. Come back in. And we can see it defaulted to large circle, unload, and circle large got put in there. So that all looks like it's handling it well. If you don't have that specific setting in there, we'll go ahead and merge in that setting. If you have nothing in there, it's fine. And if you have all of it in there, we are respecting it. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get that saved in. So we're going to come on over to our source control, which we're using fork, and take a look at what we've done. So to do next time, add option for opacity in there. Does it? We haven't done that. Radio buttons to choose which size, shape, icon to use. Where is this? Minimized icon. Great. So done. Right clicking should do something. We're not done with that yet. And hover text to tell us what happens when we click on it. I love tooltips. Let's make sure we get something like that in there. So we're going to go ahead and we have the load icon. Great. And all of this looks good. In images, we have that description there, so we want that. In options, we have added all of the options, and in strings, we have that. Now, in options, no, somewhere, in images, we now have some strings that ideally would be in the strings. But it felt like I was creating a parallel system just to extract those out into the strings file if I did that. So I haven't yet, but it is a thought that I'm not entirely satisfied that strings are in here rather than somewhere else. It's a minor point, but it's in my head. But initial addition of icon size shape options. Okay, So we at least have fixed that in place. Now let's go look at what I was talking about. So we have strings over here, we have images over here. And then icon. Okay, so options. So what it would look like is essentially icons, and then within that it would be a description. None of the rest of that. So, but at that point, it doesn't need that description subset anymore. We can just go ahead and remove that. And then we just have to remember to kill the end brace as well. Okay, so with that, if we got the description from here instead, that would be more satisfying to me. So that's in options, and so we need the description, but not case sensitive. Okay, so we have that. So instead of icon values description, we need it to be in lang dot options icons, and from there we would use the icon key. And let's see. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, what did I do? 71. Well, did I save all my files first of all? I did. Okay, so we are in options 71. Well, I did in fact not separate those correctly, so good call, LOTRO. And we can see large, medium, small, they're still in there. So that's good, but that means we would need to document that we did this. Note, each icon needs an entry in lang.options.icons for display in the options window. Okay, so that means we can go ahead and kill off the descriptions here. And come back in, and we can see everything is still fine. Okay, great. Let's look at that commit. That change set. So images, we've added a note to a future maintainer, which might be ourselves, as to what we need to do. Still don't need that. We've updated where we're going, getting a string from lang, which is a much more correct way to go about it within the structure of this plugin. And we added those entries to strings, and we removed the same ones from over there. So these, that's still work in progress, and that is our debug stuff. So moved strings from images to strings. Cool, that's all it was. They were there, they're there, and this is how we reference it. Great. Now we have a bunch of changes, let's push them out so they're not only on this machine. Great. Okay. So, where are we? We've made great progress on allowing the user to specify shape and size of their icon, but one of the big ones is still the opacity, and also about right-clicking and possibly middle-clicking. Now, we did see debug high. What about else if args.button equals turbine.ui.mouse button.middle? Then debug middle mouse button clicked, and then a right mouse button clicked. Now, this is, of course, should raise the question in our head of, do they actually mean left, middle, and right? Or do they mean primary, tertiary, and secondary? Because if you have a left-handed mouse, the convention for a lot of people, though not universally, is that the button closest to the keyboard is the quote-unquote left click. But with a left-handed mouse, that would be the rightmost button. You might as well call them the port button and the starboard button. It might make a little bit more sense. So it's never a bad idea to double check if you remap these things in Windows so that your primary button is closest to the keyboard on the left side, so it's the right button. Does it something like a LOTRO take that into account, or does it mean literally the left, middle, and right mouse buttons, or just the conventional ones? So if you're ever doing something where that really matters, it's always good to say, what does this program actually do? Because Windows should allow you to toggle which ones are the primary and the secondary, left and right, and then the tertiary, the middle mouse button, wouldn't really toggle under those scenarios. Although tilting the mouse wheel left and right could. I haven't looked to see what Windows does with that. So whenever we're seeing something like left and right in the context of a mouse button, we should be thinking, is that conventional or literal, and does it matter in my application? Now, I don't think it does here, but it's just one of those things that should flag whenever you're looking at something like that. Is it descriptive or is it prescriptive? Okay, but I'm going to go with that labeling. Now, we can see here that the left is just defined as 1, right is 2, and middle is 4. Those are going to be enumerations provided by LOTRO. The left, right, and middle, those are just names for numbers. So we might as well just call it mouse buttons 1, 2, 4, right? Left, right, and middle are just textual descriptions of those numbers. Okay, let's come on in here. And we can see if we left click, it makes the window show and hide as expected. Middle click is not. What's going on here? Oh, I deleted my my settings file, so of course. Right button is fine. Middle is not, and that is quite possibly because I've bound mouse middle to follow. So let's take a look at that. Options, key mappings, follow. So if I go ahead, so that's Shift U, really? What do you think U is? Okay, well, good news. Middle doesn't seem to come through at all, either way. Oh, that's wild. So apparently F, which on my keyboard is U, would have been follow. So I just bound it to Shift U as a just in case, and then I never looked back. Okay, so I don't think middle click is available to us, and that's fine. I don't think it's as an intuitive thing to do. So we're just going to say middle button doesn't seem to be available at the moment. In fact, I'll just leave that. And we're just going to document when was it that I saw that. Okay, so right mouse button could be interesting for opening the options. I'm not opposed to that. Could be good for me. And we've already seen me use several times that if you click on the gear thing, it says open the D tracker options. Great. So open the dtracker options. So that should be a string, and that is the tooltip options. Where is that used? That's in the main window for the options button, which if you click it, does this. Now, I feel like that should be a central function. So let's go ahead and make a plugin functions. So function show options, and in here we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's find any place that seems to be done. Oh, Kato, why do you keep eating grass and throwing up? I don't know either. Okay, so we now have a plugin function, show plugin options, that we can call from here. So what if we did that? So let's go ahead and unload and reload. We call the options there. This will open up the window as well. So if we just right click that, cool. So left click there, right click options. That sounds cool. I don't know. Why not? The last thing is, do we have any tooltips? Well, we just saw some tooltips. So let's take a look at that. Register for string tooltip. Okay. Now, I haven't changed what string I'm registering here. And boy, I didn't like that. Okay. Attempt to index local self and nil value 74. Yeah, okay. Registering for tooltip is complicated when you're already doing stuff. But what about not the whole thing? What about inside of it? Oops. So self dot just image. What about image? Well, we want set mouse visible true, perhaps. Let's give that a shot. I think because, well, I'm guessing because the mouse stuff, well, I'm guessing it will mess with this if we allow it to have a tooltip in its naive state. Yeah, so it's absorbing all the mouse stuff. Yeah, so and that. So I think we'll need to do registering for the tooltip as late as possible. No, it's right here. So if it has mouse hover, well, we have enter, leave, mouse down, and move, and up. But if we register for each of these first, table.insert image, yeah, so if we grab the ones that we care about, and which ones is it? We're not doing hover, so it's controlled mouse leave. I think that's the only one we care about. So mouse leave equals function sender args. Oh. And that'll be self mouse leave sender args. All right, just out of curiosity. I don't know, but it's still intersecting all the other math stuff. I think that's going to be a problem. Yeah, sorry, that needed to be self. But if that's the case, no, that doesn't work. Okay, so what did we do here? If we do this, mouse leave is a problem because this is overriding mouse leave. Yes. But these don't have to be. So mouse enter. Sure, let's follow that pattern. Mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse down, mouse move, and mouse up. In fact, well, that's fine. So right before the register, if we do self dot mouse enter equals self mouse enter func. In fact, let's kill if we do something like this, where we just explicitly assign and forward these before the register for tooltip gets to see it, then it should see each of these entries. And in fact, the only one we really care about is mouse leave, maybe. But just doing them all just for consistency or thoroughness or something. Did we have mouse move? All right, enter, leave, down. We have enter, leave, down. We need move and up. Okay. Enter, leave, down, move, and up. Does that actually fix the problem? Maybe. Okay, well, I don't get that error message anymore. But the clicking doesn't work either. What on earth is it doing? Okay, just out of curiosity, if I don't register, clicking is also not working. Did I... mouse visible is still there. Okay. Always double check. Okay, so what is up with that? I'm not sending the args correctly. So, enter and leave, I didn't bother. Down, move, and up, I did bother. Okay? Args, args, and args. All right, mouse down, debug, mouse up, move, right. Let's see, am I getting those at all? Mouse enter, cool. Only enter, because I did not remove func correctly. Fantastic. Okay, so we have all of our clicking back. Great. So, now that we have that, okay, don't need all that output. Cool. So, with that, if we register for the string tooltip now, open the DD tracker options. Great. Now we actually need to fix or make a string that we're doing. Okay, we're in the main window. Is there a mini section? No. Okay. In window, let's go ahead and have mini icon. So what we really want is a tooltip. where we can say English equals right, left click. And you know what? What does the game say these things are called? Button 2, that's button 3. Alright, so it's up to us to do something meaningful, but yes. Toggle main detracker window. Main window. Let's see if a new line does anything. Right click, open detracker options. So, mini icon tooltip. Let's grab that. So, mini icon tooltip. All right, left click. Toggle detracker main window. Missing a space. Why is that? It just is. Okay. So, right click, open detracker options. Right click, left click. Is disrupted by the tooltip itself being there. What's going on with that? Okay, so when we register for string tooltip, so displaying the tooltip, where did this come from? Set mouse visible. Tooltip control, great. So what's absorbing the click? Just out of curiosity, self set mouse visible false. No. But it's just when it is visible. So how do we know that it's visible? Hover. So show tooltip. How does this work? We get the instance, we load the text, we display the tooltip. Okay, so this is all string tooltip window, which is returning the string tooltip window instance. Great. So out of curiosity, self.clicked mouse click equals functions under args debug tooltip clicked end. Like, is it actually receiving the click? Doesn't seem to be. But it says self wants key events. It does because of detachment, yeah. Because that is a thing you can do is with these is you can detach it. In theory. I guess only some of them. Create a simple border. Make the list box for scrolling. It just shouldn't be that complicated. Do I care? Is the tooltip worth not actually being able to click on it? Hey, some readers have joined from Framdeer. Welcome. I am debating with myself whether it's worth having a tooltip that explains what you can do with the icon if, when the tooltip is up, you can't click on the icon. I find that very confusing myself. Maybe it's just a hidden feature. I call it out in the README file, but I think this is beyond annoying when it happens. And since the tooltip can hover whenever you are over it for too long, as in you're about to click on the thing, that's just no good. I don't know why it's actually doing that, but I think I've reached the end of trying to figure out tonight. Something in here is absorbing mouse clicks, and the fact that it needs to know about the mouse in order to be able to show up at all makes me feel like that's a non-fixable issue. So let's go figure out what is we just did and undo it. So the show options, actually I do like that, that's fine. So setting mouse visible to false, actually I don't have a problem with that. That's the correct place for it to be. So moved, set mouse visible to CTOR. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call that good. What else did we do? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and discard all of this. That func, that func, that func. This one, and that one as well. We're going to go ahead and add in the show plugin options. Main window is going to do show plugin options, and plugin functions is where we have centralized what that means. So, right click icon now opens options window. And then this tooltip string, we don't need it. We're not going to use it. At least not right now. And then, so we are no longer doing a hover text. We've decided that that's a bad idea. So no. Right clicking should do something. Options, yes. Middle clicking, not available. So the last thing we're going to do that we haven't done yet is the opacity slider. For those who are just joining us, I was just contemplating bringing the stream to a close because the new opacity feature for this button is going to take a little bit of effort. We're going to want to have at least one thing, a slider from a good minimum value to a maximum of 100%, but possibly also a checkbox that says actually do opacity or not. Now, 100% opaque is kind of the same as saying don't do any transparency, but I don't know how intuitive that is to people. So having a checkbox that overrides it completely and then a slider. The slider also probably shouldn't go down to 0. You probably shouldn't be able to make this invisible if you're not hovering over it, but at least give people some control over where does it go when you're not hovering over it, if you want it to do that at all. So that's probably going to be a next time thing. I've just hit about 2 hours today, and I think I will benefit from the rest. That being said, I believe we have some festivals coming up. So 26 LOTRO calendar, 2026 public event schedule. Let's take a look. We're at the end of April, if you can believe it. I cannot. So the 19-year anniversary is beginning on the 23rd. That is this Thursday. And we'll go until, what is that? 3 weeks? 2.5 weeks. Goes for about 2.5 weeks. I'm interested to see what they are doing this year. Also, very excited to make sure I've finished all the scavenger hunt on my main completionist. I think I have, but except last time we ran out of time and didn't actually uncover the mystery of the standing stones, so we should remember to do that this year. Anything else coming up? Nope. Rowan Raspberry might be back. I should go check if Rowan Raspberry is actually back. Lalia. Cool. Anything else that I was going to look at while I'm teleporting? Nope, that's all good. Let's push out our recent changes. Okay, let's head on out. You're not Rowan Raspberry. Tomorrow? It did say the 22nd, didn't it? Oh, well. Okay. I can wait. 4:22. Yeah, I misread it. It is 22 o'clock. Oh, well. Okay. So, Filbert Fig, I have everything I need from you, so you're useless to me. I'm going to go wish I was picking flowers. Okay, so, it looks like that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you all here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.